This video is going to be a little less of a tutorial, a little bit more about how I do specific things in Lightroom Classic, spurred by a question that one of my Patreon members, Barbara, asked me after my last video regarding survey view, and some of what I was showing in there regarding the rating system and labeling system I use, specifically the color labels. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit further in this video to help you understand how I'm using it. Maybe it'll help you come up with a methodology that works for you as well. So if we hop into Lightroom Classic here, you can see that I've currently got my 2021 Oregon collection set selected, and all total I've got about 5,300 photos in here thanks to shooting waterfalls and waves and things of that nature. So I've got a lot of stuff and a lot of things that I had to go through. So in the previous video with survey view, I showed how I go through and use 1-star ratings to make my first pass when I'm culling after a trip. Then I bump up to a 2-star rating, then I finish up with a 3-star rating. That doesn't mean, however, that I stop at 3 stars. So if we go through and use filters here and just take a look really quickly, if I go to equals 1 star, these would be all of the images that I selected on my first pass of culling from this Oregon trip that didn't move on to the second or third and final phase of rating and culling. If I select equals 2 stars, you can see there's the ones that made it into the second pass of culling but didn't move on to the final stage. And then the 3 stars would be all of the images that I decided are worth taking a look at, worth attempting processing on, and potentially moving into my portfolio as I finish them up. Now in this particular example, I haven't moved many of my Oregon photos into my final portfolio offering, which means they're not available on my website, they're not available for print sale and things of that nature. But right now, because I'm filtered on rating equals just 3 stars, I'm not actually seeing anything that I have moved to my portfolio. So this is where the next stage of my rating process comes in. If I go to rating equals 4 stars, this now indicates any image that I've completed my editing on and that I've deemed worthy of being added to my portfolio and thereby being offered as a print on my online store. Now we can see here I do have one image here that's rated 4 stars, but shouldn't be. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that real quickly and just bump it back down to 3 stars so I can take a look at it in the future and see if it's anything I want to consider processing. But now you can see I've got 4 stars on all of these, and that also all of these are labeled with green color labels. So for me, green indicates that it is a final published image in addition to the 4 stars. Now I use both really as a carryover from when I use Lightroom Mobile a little bit more. I've never edited on Lightroom Mobile, but I do use it occasionally to pull images out, export them, share them really easily via text or messenger or something like that. And unfortunately, only Lightroom Classic supports the color labeling. So if you want to be able to identify images that are, in this case, quote unquote finished, I can't rely on a color label if I'm looking at it in Lightroom Desktop or Lightroom Mobile. Any of the other Lightroom applications, that color label is not going to show up. But there is still another reason for why I still do the 4 stars plus the green label here, is that the green label indicates that the image is final, but 4 stars is telling me that I haven't proofed it for print just yet. So now if I come down here and I go to my rating equals 5 stars, I've got no photos matching this filter. That's because all of my proofing prints are in a collection I have from my store. So if I come over here to my collections real quickly and go to store and Wix images, now we can see all of my published finalized images that are available online and again available as prints in my store. Now if I go to that 5-star filter, you'll see that I've got quite a few more images selected that are ones that I've proofed for print. Now without getting into further weeds, I've got some proofing prints elsewhere for my folios and things like that. But from a basic example standpoint here, you can see that I'm using the green label still for proofing prints, but what differentiates it is the 5-star rating. So the 4-star with green label indicate that's done on my website, available for sale. 5-star rating indicates that this is a proofing copy that I don't want to share on social media necessarily because it's edited specifically for print, but I've got it delineated or designated in Lightroom Classic so that I can easily find those images from a proofing standpoint for print. So to recap the rating system really quickly, because I know I was kind of jumping around here. Again, 1 star indicates images that made it into but did not make it past my first run of culling. 2 stars would be the second run of culling that images didn't get past. 3-star would indicate that the images have gone through my entire culling process, and those 3-star images are the ones that I want to take a look at and edit, see if they're worth working on completely and getting them finalized for sharing online and in my print store. And then 4 stars would indicate a completely finished image that's on my website that I can share on social media, so on and so forth. And then that 5-star rating would indicate images that I've proofed for print. So that's part of my organization system. The other piece that comes into play is color labels. And this is more specifically what Barbara was asking about, is how do I use my color labeling system to help me stay a little bit more organized in Lightroom Classic as well. So let's talk about that a little bit more in depth. So if I were to come into my 2023 Utah files, again, because I've changed collections, all of my filters have been disabled at this point. But you can see that I've got some images that are red, some that are green. If I scroll down here, we'll likely see some yellow ones. There's a yellow one, for instance. So what do those color labels indicate? So if I filter on my red labels, this is telling me these are images I've played around with editing, started editing, but I haven't moved on to a stage where I feel comfortable in terms of letting them kind of percolate for a while, or that I think they're likely to move on to the next stage, which would be really wrapping up the edit, letting it sit for a little while, and seeing what I feel about after a little bit of time. So red really indicates I've started an edit, but I'm not done with it. If I go into my filters that I've created and saved and go to color yellow, this would indicate images that I feel are done, but I'm letting sit in a little bit of what I call a percolation stage, where I want to come back to it with fresh eyes and revisit it and see if there's any additional tweaks I want to make. Generally, at this point, I've applied my sharpening and denoise steps as well. It's generally the very last thing I do on an image because it can impact performance a little bit, and also I just don't like doing it until the very end of my editing workflow. Now, the yellow color label could also indicate that I got it to that stage, but upon further review, I decided not to move it forward to a finished state. I just didn't feel that the image was quite up to snuff, and it's going to stay in yellow kind of indefinitely, or maybe I'll come back to it in a year or two. Maybe I decide to start over or make some additional tweaks. I have a new vision for it or something, and maybe that image will end up moving forward to a finished state at some point in the future. So yellow really indicates it's basically done, but I'm not quite ready to hit share on it just yet or post it up on social media or my online portfolios. So I want to come back with it and take a closer look at it a few days later, weeks later, what have you. If I go to my next filter and filter on green, again, green would be a combination of 4 or 5 stars, but green means that the image is finished for all intents and purposes. You can see out of this Utah 2023 collection, I've got quite a few images that I've finished. Every single one of these has either been shared online via social media, ready to share online via social media, or it's definitely posted on my website, either in one of my slideshow galleries, or it's available for print in my print portfolio gallery. So again, green is just a nice visual indication that that image is done. I don't have to worry about coming back to it later or anything like that. I know I'm good to go with it. And that's really all there is to it in terms of how I approach Lightroom Classic and my organization with star ratings and color labels. Now, you did see I've got some different filters that I've saved. You can get to all of those through your filter bar down at the bottom, but I also like to save some preset filters just so that I can go in and get it with one click instead of maybe having to select multiple parameters each and every time. So I do save those filters that I use most often, so I can just get them from that pop-up menu, either in the library module or when I'm working in development. So a quick and short video this time. Like I said, less of a tutorial, more just kind of how I approach things. Again, hopefully this gives you some ideas for maybe how you can approach your organization in Lightroom Classic as well. And with that, until next time, take care. Thank you, as always, to my Patreon members for their ongoing contributions, which help fund the production of videos like this and more. If you'd like to help support my work, you can do so by becoming a member of my Patreon, purchasing fine art prints via my website, or by making a one-time donation through PayPal. Your support is always greatly appreciated.